All right, everyone. Hello. Welcome back to Low Budget Logistics, your logistics and supply chain explainer. Today, we're going to be talking about the news over the weekend, but we're going to get right into it. Let's move forward. First, please subscribe. It really helps build the channel because we are just going it alone. I was watching Josh Pate, and he made a really great comment on his last video that he's out here driving through the jungle. Right, he's the first one to do a lot of stuff, and so we are taking that approach. Right, we've got some bumps, some dings. You just saw some technical difficulties, but please like and subscribe. It really helps us to grow, helps me to grow, helps us to kind of continue on in this really fun journey that we're on, trying to educate you on what it is that logistics does and how your stuff gets to you. So, without further ado, let's move into our actual slides for the day. So, ooh, man, I am like right in the way here. Should move over here. Let's move. All right. So what was actually said? So we're going to be talking about the Supreme Court rulings, right? In my last video, I discussed the delay that we've had from the Supreme Court on a ruling in the Trump IEPA tariffs. That is a very important thing as we talk about what was not said, and then what we're going to do next. So what was said? Pointer here. It's wild that nobody actually watches this show. You know, it's just me out here, me and producer Henry. He's over there somewhere behind the camera, I'm sure. But we're going to talk about what was said, what was not said, and then where we go from here, what happened next, because some important things happened, some important things were not said, and some important things happened immediately after. So without further ado, let's talk about what was actually said. All right. What was said? These tariffs, reciprocal tariffs, also if you're in the industry known as IEPA tariffs, were deemed by the Supreme Court to be illegal. I guess probably the more technical definition is that the Supreme Court ruled that the president did not have the legal authority to enact these tariffs, right? Reason being, he used a bit of tariff law called IEPA, IEEPA, which is specifically for emergency situations. And the Supreme Court, in a 6-3 ruling, decided that it was not an emergent issue and that the tariffs that were applied were illegal, or that the president did not have the authority to do that. Right. So all these things, right? 67% on China, which has actually moved, right? Because these are all, 34% for China. All of these have actually shifted since the president actually announced them. So almost a year ago. It's kind of wild that it was. So all those numbers have shifted that you're seeing here, but this is what we're talking about is these specific tariffs. Again, that will be important because the president has pretty broad authority in a lot of different places to enact tariffs, right? The world of international trade is a lot like Calvin Ball, right? Where if you remember, it's Calvin Ball, or alternatively, whose line is it anyways? I like Calvin Ball. I read Calvin and Hobbes as a kid. I think a lot more people will understand this one. The rules of Calvin Ball, boy, they change all the time. And one day you're playing it, and the next day you're playing it a different way. And so that's what it is like being in the world of international logistics. So when we're talking about global trade, there's a lot of money on the line. There's a lot of different hands in the cookie jar, a lot of hands in the pot, a lot of different politicians that get involved in it. A lot of different countries have very different viewpoints and focuses on how trade should be done, what they want their country to do. And so they're out there every day wheeling and dealing and doing different things. And so every day something new changes in this world. And so, yeah, it's kind of wild. So what happened is that Supreme Court, as I said, Supreme Court ruled IEPA tariffs not legal, but it did not touch the other tariffing authority that the president has been given, right? So we know the president has issued tariffs in at least 3, if not 4 different ways, right? So I think he has Section 112 tariffing authority. He's got Section 201 tariffing authority. He's got Section 301 tariffing authority. And he has IEPA tariffing authority, but not in this particular instance, right? So what happened is that the 4th of those tariffs went away, right? At least in this instance. If you were tariffed under Section 301, Section 201, which apply very differently, those are still there. So in a case of a lot of goods coming into the U.S., they fell under 201, 301, and IEPA. Specifically, right, the one that is kind of most important is the tariffing of metallic parts or various, I think, industrial pieces, those types of things. Really, it comes down to steel. And so anything that might be stainless steel coming into the country, depending on the amount of foreign steel being used in that product, there's a different tariff rate that applies. And so your tariff based on the amount of the steel, foreign steel used in your final construction. I'm about to sneeze. Excuse me. All right. So in Section 201 and Section 301, the president has the ability to tariff specifically in terms of national defense, national peace, and national security. Now, why is that? Well, the president needs to be able to ensure that the U.S. is able to defend itself, and the president always will an importing country should always retain the ability to protect domestic manufacturing. Those are really what Section 201 and 301 really apply to. So in the case of steel, foreign steel, what can happen and what has been proven to happen is that a foreign country can illegally subsidize their commodities market, right? So they can help their manufacturers produce steel or commodity at a very low rate. What that does is that it makes it so that foreign competition can't compete, right? It is a bad practice, and they can really gain market share because of this illegal competition. Now, or it's unfair competition. So what the importing countries are able to do, and what the president is able to do, is in those circumstances where there is some sort of unfair competition or unfair trade practices, he's able to apply tariffs such that it would return everything to equilibrium, right? So it would really level the playing field and allow for domestic competition to play on the same footing as the rest of the world. Now, man, my nose is just going to be all over me today. Now, the president has applied those tariffs pretty broadly, and again, it's really based off of commodities. It is not as much based on whatever you might be importing that might be a bit more unique. But again, the world of international trade law is kind of wild, and it does change all the time. So we've talked about what actually happened. Let's talk about what did not happen. We did not get a ruling on refunds. This is what everyone actually cares about, okay? I work at a company that does freight forwarding. I have a lot of friends that do freight forwarding. I have a lot of friends who are importers. And the question on top of everyone's mind was, when am I going to get my money? Because in most cases, they imported under these additional tariffs, and they want some money back. Now, the Supreme Court did not rule on that. They did not rule on refunds. They only said, and they were very explicit, only saying that IEPA tariffs were not legal, and so they should be removed. Now, again, there's probably something to the effect of $1 to $2 trillion worth of refunds that could potentially be issued. We have not gotten a ruling on that yet, because the Supreme Court has stayed very, very quiet, right? In terms of like money, again, when we're talking about taking $1 trillion out of the government's coffers, you really need to be aware of what you're doing, right? So I'm assuming that they're going to take a lot more time to confirm. I'm sure that the president and the rest of the administration is actually going to be working with the Supreme Court to understand where they are going. But again, the joys of being in a separate but co-equal government is that the Supreme Court can act within its own jurisdiction. And so they don't have to do what the president says. That's its own separate discussion. We're not talking about that right now because we are a logistics and supply chain video. So we should hear back something soon, I would imagine. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now, so we may not hear anything back for a while. The Supreme Court has several other things that they're ruling on. But yes, the question on everyone's lips is, when am I going to get my money that I paid, right? In the case of China, I think there were times where I specifically was importing under like 50, 57% tariffs. It was excessive, but gotta have business, gotta have product to sell. So it'd be really nice to have some of those refunds back. If refunds were going to be issued, they'd be going through the ACE system for Customs and Border Patrol. So if you do not have an ACE account set up, please let me know. Reach out in the comments or DM me directly. I'd be happy to help you set up your ACE account for your company. If you have one in your company and you don't know what your password is, good luck, especially to my former employer. Best of luck, because I created that account and I have forgotten what the password is. So if you are watching this, good luck, friends. But yeah, if you have a freight forwarder that you're working with or a customs broker that you're working with, they should be able to help you get all set up within Customs and Border Patrol systems. And it's very helpful to have those links already created. Again, if refunds are issued, they will be issued that way. Now, what happened next? Right, so after the ruling from the Supreme Court, the president acted within his authority to raise tariffs up to the legal maximum of 15%. Right, so again, the world of international trade is just Calvin ball, and so the rules have changed. The rules are changing all the time. So we've moved from 10 to 15%. That is the legal maximum that the president can issue, I believe, under those IEPA tariffs. But I'm not entirely sure. I'm not a customs broker. I'm not a customs lawyer. I don't get paid enough to be that. So, but ultimately, what it matters to you, the viewer, is that the president has raised tariffs from 10 to 15% across the globe. So an additional 5% will be levied on anything coming into the U.S. Now, again, this is where things get really persnickety and very convoluted, is when do those actually apply? I'm not entirely sure. I didn't read the ruling. It's not my job anymore. So I am less familiar with how those are actually being applied. But I would imagine that it's based off of anything that's going to be coming into the U.S. Last time that we saw those kind of broad sweeping issues or broad sweeping tariffs being applied, they were issued for anything that had a departure date, in the future. So there might be some relief there. I'm not entirely sure. Again, I'm less focused on that world now. Yeah, so it's been a fun weekend. I know that my colleagues on the freight side were busily fielding calls all weekend long, just to help their customers understand what was going on. Again, they're a lot more tied out on this than I am. But yeah, it's been kind of a wild ride. Hopefully we'll get a ruling on refunds. That's what everyone really cares about. We'll see what that means. If refunds are issued, they will probably not. I know I've had comments about this. They will not go to individuals. They will go to the importers of record, because those are the entities who've actually paid to import the products. Right? They were the ones who paid the taxes. That's where the money is going to go back to. Sorry, I would love another stimmy check right now. What's my next slide? I don't even know. We're such a on the ball podcast here. All right, that is going because we're having some technical difficulties, and we are 15 minutes in. That's going to be it for me today. I do want to thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the time here. I'll be continuing to update you on the situation, especially as the Supreme Court might give more rulings this week. I'll be on the ball for it. But if you like the video, please subscribe to the channel. It helps me grow, helps us grow, helps the world learn about this thing that we do in the background that no one understands. Aside from that, if you like my shirt, I forget to plug myself all the time. If you like my shirt, you like what I do here, and you want to support, go to lowbudgetlogistics.com, and you can purchase a shirt there. My good friend will print you one up and send it right to your door. There are several choices. I got the black, which is nice. I think I have blue and I have a green as well, which are really, really fun. There exist in this world only 2 of these particular shirts. Maybe there's 3. There are 3 shirts that exist in the world. So if you want one, if you want to join the growing ranks, go buy one. It's a great way to support the channel. Aside from that, again, like, subscribe, do all the things, hit the notification bell. And I will see you again probably next week, if not a little bit soon.